When my twin sister and I aged out of the state system, all that awaited us was a dusty manila envelope containing a deed for 500 acres of forgotten land. But what we found buried beneath it, in a cold, dark underground tunnel, would redefine everything we thought we knew about abandonment, family, and the real meaning of inheritance. If you've ever felt like your story was written for you by someone else, stick around. This one's for you. And if it resonates, maybe subscribe, because we're building a community here for people who've had to find their own way home. The day we left the Hemlock Hills group home was aggressively gray. A low, bruised-looking sky pressed down on the manicured lawn, the kind of lawn that was always perfectly green, but never felt real, like a carpet rolled out to cover something ugly. I stood on the porch, my entire life packed into a single dented duffel bag slung over my shoulder. The bag was army green, a hand-me-down from a kid who'd run away 2 years prior and never come back. I'd always wondered if he'd found what he was looking for, or if he'd just found a different kind of institution. Maya stood beside me, a mirror image with harder edges. Where I tended to slump, she stood ramrod straight, her chin tilted up in a way that dared the world to take a swing. She held an identical duffel bag. We were a matched set, the kind you get at a discount. 18 years old, officially, terrifyingly, free. You'd think they'd manage a bit of sun for the occasion, she muttered, her breath misting in the damp air. The world doesn't owe us good weather, May, I said, the words feeling hollow and practiced. It was something Mr. Abernathy, our last caseworker, used to say, a classic from the playbook of managing expectations. The world owes us a hell of a lot more than good weather, Leo, she shot back, her dark eyes scanning the long gravel driveway that led away from Hemlock Hills. Away from the squeak of janitor carts in the middle of the night, the smell of industrial bleach, the quiet, humming dread of waiting for the next chapter of your life to be decided in a conference room you'd never see. Freedom didn't feel like a soaring bird. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with no idea how deep the water below was. For 10 years, since the accident that took our parents, our lives had been a series of files, assessments, and placements. We were state-issue kids, raised on schedules and therapeutic jargon. Now the schedule was gone. There was just the ticking of my cheap watch and the slow crawl of a taxi coming to collect us. The taxi was our one indulgence, paid for with the last of the crumpled bills we'd saved from odd jobs. The alternative was the county bus, a rolling tin can of quiet desperation we'd ridden 1,000 times. Today, we wanted a clean break. Inside, Ms. Albright was waiting for us in the lobby. She was a woman built of sharp angles and sensible shoes, a county lawyer who had managed our parents' estate, or what was left of it. She'd been a recurring character in our lives, a specter in a beige pantsuit who appeared every few years with paperwork and a strained, professional smile. "Leo, Maya," she greeted us, her voice as dry as old paper. She gestured to 2 hard plastic chairs opposite her desk. We sat. The final meeting, the official handover. "As you know," she began, pulling a thick envelope from her briefcase, "today is your 18th birthday. As such, you are now legally emancipated. The state's guardianship is concluded." She said it like she was reading minutes from a meeting. No balloons, no cake. Just the sterile snap of the briefcase clasp. Maya shifted in her chair. "So we're done. We can go." Ms. Albright offered that thin smile again. "Almost. There is the matter of your inheritance." I leaned forward. We knew there was something, but the details had always been kept from us, locked away in the impenetrable fortress of legal bureaucracy. We'd spun fantasies about it for years in our shared room after lights out. Maybe a small trust fund, enough for a security deposit on a tiny apartment. Maybe a car that actually ran. We weren't greedy. We were just desperate for a foundation, something solid to stand on. Your paternal grandfather, Arthur Vance, passed away 6 years after your parents, Ms. Albright explained, sliding the envelope across the desk. It landed with a soft, definitive thud. We never knew him, I said quietly. He was just a name on a form, a ghost we'd never been introduced to. Our parents had been estranged from him, a family schism we never got the story behind. That may be, she said, her expression unreadable. Nevertheless, he left you everything he had. There was no money, I'm afraid. His accounts were empty. What he had was land. She tapped the envelope. Inside you will find the deed to a property in a town called Havenwood. It's rural. 512 acres to be precise. A small house, a barn. It has been sitting vacant for over a decade. The property taxes have been paid automatically from a small, separate account he set up for that specific purpose. That account is now also depleted. The next tax bill is due in 3 months. 500 acres. The number was so large it felt meaningless, like a statistic about the surface of the moon. I looked at Maya. Her face was a mask of disbelief, her usual defiance momentarily wiped away. So, we own a forest? She asked, her voice tight. Essentially, yes, Ms. Albright confirmed. There's also this. She slid a smaller, sealed envelope across the desk. It was old, the paper yellowed at the edges. Our names were written on the front in a shaky, spidery script. Your grandfather left this for you as well. He stipulated it was only to be given to you on your 18th birthday. I picked it up. It felt heavy, not just with paper, but with time. One last thing, the lawyer added, her tone shifting slightly, becoming almost cautious. I have received 3 letters in the last year from a firm called Sterling Development Corporation. They are aware the property is emerging from probate. They have made a standing offer to purchase the land, a significant offer. She slid one more piece of paper over. It was a formal letterhead, and at the bottom was a number with so many zeros I had to count them twice. $2 million. My breath caught in my throat. 2 million. That wasn't a security deposit. That was a different life, a complete and total escape. I saw it flash before my eyes. A clean apartment, new clothes, college tuition, never having to eat instant noodles again. The end of a lifetime of scraping by. Maya stared at the number, her knuckles white where she gripped the arm of her chair. 2 million? She whispered. That's their initial offer, Ms. Albright said. They want the land for a high-end wilderness resort. It's contingent on a zoning change, but they seem confident. They are, I'm told, very persistent. My legal obligation is to inform you of the offer. What you do with it, and with the property, is now entirely up to you. She stood up, a clear signal that the meeting and our childhood was over. The bus to Havenwood leaves from the county depot at 3 o'clock. The keys to the house are in the large envelope with the deed. Good luck, you two. And that was it. We were dismissed. We walked out of Hemlock Hills for the last time, the heavy envelope in my hand, the number with all those zeros burning a hole in my brain. The taxi was waiting, its engine a low grumble in the gray afternoon. As we pulled away, I looked back at the imposing brick building, the place that had been our home, our prison, our whole world. It shrank in the rearview mirror until it was just a dot, and then it was gone. I felt a surge of something I couldn't name, not joy, not yet. It was more like the terrifying, dizzying feeling of a deep, sudden silence after years of noise. The bus ride to Havenwood was a 6-hour journey into the heart of nowhere. We watched the strip malls and suburbs melt away, replaced by rolling hills and dense forests that crowded the edges of the highway. The landscape grew wilder, the town smaller and farther apart. Maya spent the first hour staring at the offer letter from Sterling Development, her finger tracing the impossible number. "This is it, Leo," she said, her voice low and intense. "This is our ticket. We sell, we split it. $1 million each. We never have to look back." "We don't even know what we're selling," I countered, my gaze fixed on the blur of green outside the window. "We haven't even seen the place." "It's 500 acres of dirt and trees in the middle of nothing. What's to see? The house is probably falling down. This isn't a home, it's a lottery ticket someone forgot to cash." I couldn't argue with her logic. She was the practical one, the survivor. She saw the world in terms of threats and opportunities. I saw the shadows in between. I pulled the other envelope out of my bag, the one from our grandfather. "What about this?" I asked, holding it up. Maya glanced at it, unimpressed. "Probably an apology letter for leaving us with nothing but a tax bill. Read it later. Let's focus on the real world for a minute." But I couldn't. The letter felt like the one piece of the puzzle that wasn't about money or lawyers. It was personal. It was from family, even a family we never knew. I tucked it safely back in my bag, a secret I wanted to open in a quiet place. The bus finally groaned to a halt in Havenwood. The depot was just a wooden bench and a faded sign on the side of a general store. The town itself wasn't much more. A single main street with a handful of storefronts, a gas station, and a church steeple peeking over the trees. The air was different here, cleaner, sharper, smelling of pine needles and damp earth. A profound quiet settled over everything, broken only by the chirping of crickets. An old man with a face like a road map and a flannel shirt that had seen better decades was sweeping the porch of the general store. He watched us get off the bus, our city-worn duffel bags looking alien in this setting. "You two lost?" he asked, his voice a gravelly rumble. "We're looking for the Vance property," I said. His sweeping stopped. He leaned on his broom, his eyes narrowing as he studied us. "Arthur Vance? No one's been out to that place in years, not since he passed. You family?" "Grandchildren," Maya said, her tone clipped, discouraging further questions. He grunted, a sound that could have meant anything. "It's a good 5-mile walk up Old Creek Road. You won't make it before dark. I can give you a ride. Name's Earl." We didn't have a choice. We piled into the cab of his ancient, rusted-out pickup truck. The inside smelled of oil and old coffee. Earl drove slowly, the truck rattling and groaning as we turned off the paved road onto a dirt track that was more potholes than road. "Folks from some big city company been sniffing around here lately," Earl said, glancing at us. "Asking about that land. Offering big money, I hear." "We know," Maya said. Earl nodded slowly. "Arthur loved that land. Said it was special. Said it had secrets." He chuckled to himself. "Old man was always a bit of a mystery. Kept to himself. Good man, though. Helped a lot of people out in his time, quietly." I wondered what he meant by that, but before I could ask, the truck shuddered to a stop. Through the overgrown trees, I could see a sagging roofline. "This is it," Earl said. "End of the line." We got out, thanking him. He just nodded again, a look of pity in his eyes. "You need anything, you know where to find me," he said, before wrestling the truck into a three-point turn and rattling back down the road, leaving us in a cloud of dust and deepening twilight. We stood before a rusted gate, half swallowed by thorny vines. Beyond it, a long, overgrown driveway led to a dark shape that we assumed was the house. The silence was absolute now, a living thing that pressed in from all sides. It wasn't empty silence. It was filled with the rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the distant call of a bird. It was the sound of a place that had been left to itself for a very long time. "Home, sweet home," Maya muttered, her sarcasm barely hiding a tremor of apprehension. I pushed the gate. It screeched in protest but swung open. We walked up the driveway, our sneakers crunching on the gravel. The house was worse than I'd imagined. It was a simple two-story farmhouse, but its white paint was peeling in long strips, revealing weathered gray wood beneath. The porch sagged dangerously to one side, and several windows were boarded up. A massive oak tree, probably older than the house itself, loomed over it, its branches like skeletal fingers against the darkening sky. "It's a tear-down," Maya said, her voice flat with disappointed confirmation. "We call the developer tomorrow." I didn't answer. I was looking at the front door. It was solid oak, and unlike the rest of the house, it seemed sturdy, untouched by the decay. In the large envelope from Ms. Albright, among the dense legal papers of the deed, was a small wax paper packet containing a single, ornate iron key. It was heavy in my palm. It slid into the lock with a satisfying click. The door swung inward on silent, well-oiled hinges, opening into a world of dust and shadows. The air inside was thick and musty, the smell of trapped time. A layer of dust coated everything, softening the edges of the furniture that stood like ghosts in the gloom. In the faint light from the open door, I could see a living room, a stone fireplace, a threadbare armchair, a wall of bookshelves filled with tilting spines. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. Maya found an old oil lamp on the mantelpiece, and after a few tries with a lighter from her pocket, managed to coax a sputtering golden flame from it. The warm light pushed back the shadows, revealing more of the room. It was simple, rustic, but there was a sense of solidness to it. The furniture was handmade, the bookshelves filled with classics, poetry, and thick manuals on botany and engineering. "He was a reader," I murmured, running my finger through the dust on a leather-bound copy of Walden. "He was a hermit with a reading habit," Maya corrected, holding the lamp high. "Let's see what's upstairs. I'm looking for a bed that won't give me tetanus." The second floor had two small bedrooms. One was clearly the master bedroom, with a large, sturdy bed frame and a simple wooden desk by the window. The other was empty, save for two small, unmade cots pushed against the far wall. It was as if they had been prepared for guests who never arrived. A pang of something, sadness maybe, went through me. Had he been waiting for us? Had he hoped our parents would bring us to visit someday? We spent the first night in our sleeping bags on the floor of the living room, not trusting the dusty mattresses. We were too tired to talk, too overwhelmed. The house groaned and settled around us, a sleeping beast. I lay awake for a long time, listening to its unfamiliar sounds, the iron key and the sealed letter a heavy weight in my bag. The $2 million felt a world away. Here, in this forgotten house, the only thing that felt real was the past. The next morning, we explored the property. The 500 acres were a sprawling wilderness of old-growth forest, rolling hills, and a clear, fast-running creek that cut through a small meadow. It was beautiful in a raw, untamed way. The barn was huge, its timbers still solid, filled with old, rusted farm equipment and the sweet smell of hay. "This is crazy," Maya said, leaning against the barn door and looking out at the vast expanse of trees. "No one should own this much land. It's not right." "He did," I said, "our grandfather." "A man we never met." She kicked at a loose stone. "Leo, be real. We can't live here. The house needs a new roof, new plumbing, everything." "We don't have any money. We don't have any skills. That offer is our only move. It's a clean slate." I knew she was right. Every logical part of my brain screamed that she was right. But something held me back. It was a feeling, a sense of connection to this place that I couldn't explain. It felt less like a property and more like a secret I was supposed to understand. That afternoon, while Maya was methodically mapping out the property lines from the deed's description, I decided it was time. I sat on the sagging front porch, the sun warm on my face, and carefully broke the wax seal on our grandfather's letter. My hands trembled slightly. The spidery script inside was neat, but filled with a sense of urgency. It began without preamble. "My children, if you are reading this, then I am long gone, and the world has failed you in the way I always feared it would. I am sorry I was not in your lives. The reasons are complicated. A story of old wounds and stubborn pride between your father and me. But know this, not a day went by that I did not think of you. I have left you this land, this house. To the world, it is a plot of dirt, a commodity. A developer will likely come sniffing around, offering you a fortune for it. They will tell you it is your only choice. They are wrong. This land is not an inheritance, it is a responsibility. I have left you a home, but it is more than that. It is a legacy. Your real inheritance is not on any deed or map. It is buried. It is safe. It is waiting. Look for the place where the oldest oak kisses the stone. Your journey starts there. Do not trust the easy path. Trust the earth beneath your feet. Trust each other. Your grandfather, Arthur." I read the letter 3 times. A legacy? Buried? Look for the place where the oldest oak kisses the stone. My eyes went to the giant oak tree that towered over the house. Its thick, gnarled roots spread out like massive knuckles, and one of them, I now saw, had grown directly over the edge of the stone foundation of the house. It was almost touching it, a gap of only a few inches separating ancient wood from old stone. A kiss. My heart started to pound. This wasn't just a sentimental letter, it was a map. I called Maya over and showed her the letter. She read it, her expression shifting from skepticism to grudging curiosity. "Buried inheritance?" she scoffed, though her eyes were already scanning the base of the oak tree. "Sounds like a fairy tale. He was probably just a crazy old man who buried a tin of cash." "Maybe," I said. "But he knew about the developers. He knew we'd be tempted to sell. He's telling us there's something more here." Together we went to the spot where the root met the foundation. The ground was covered in a thick layer of moss and fallen leaves. We cleared it away with our hands, digging into the soft, damp earth. At first we found nothing but dirt and rocks. "I told you," Maya said, standing up to wipe her muddy hands on her jeans. "Nothing." But I kept digging. My fingers brushed against something hard and flat that wasn't a rock. It was wood. We dug faster, excitement warring with disbelief. We uncovered a small, square trapdoor. its surface covered in weathered planks designed to blend in with the ground. It had a simple iron ring for a handle. We looked at each other, the same thought reflected in our eyes. This was it. It took both of us to pull the door open. It lifted with a groan of protest, revealing a set of steep, stone steps leading down into absolute darkness. A wave of cold, musty air washed over us, smelling of deep earth and something else, something metallic and old. "No way," Maya breathed, peering into the blackness. "He built a root cellar under the house. That's the big secret?" "I don't think it's a root cellar," I said, my voice hushed. The air felt different. The construction of the steps was too precise, too deliberate. We got the oil lamp and a flashlight from our bags. I took a deep breath and started down the steps, Maya close behind me. The stone was cold and damp under my hands. After about 20 steps, we reached a small, level landing. In front of us was not a cellar, but the beginning of a tunnel. It was incredible. The walls were reinforced with thick wooden beams, and a narrow track, like for a small mining cart, ran down the center of the packed earth floor. It stretched forward into the darkness, farther than our flashlight beam could reach. Electrical conduit ran along the ceiling, though whatever lights it powered were long dead. "What is this?" Maya whispered, her voice full of awe. "Who builds something like this?" We walked slowly, our footsteps echoing in the silence. The tunnel was about 7 feet high and 5 feet wide, a testament to an immense amount of labor. Every 50 feet or so, we passed small alcoves carved into the wall, empty, save for cobwebs. After what felt like a quarter of a mile, the tunnel opened into a large, cavernous room. It was a hidden workshop and a storeroom. A heavy wooden workbench stood against one wall, covered in tools and schematics drawn on yellowed drafting paper. Shelves lined the other walls, stacked high with sealed crates, metal footlockers, and canvas-wrapped bundles. In the center of the room was a small, pot-bellied stove with a pile of firewood next to it and 2 simple cots. It was a bunker, a sanctuary. "He was a doomsday prepper," Maya said, running her hand over a dusty crate. "A paranoid hermit living in a hole in the ground." "I don't think so," I said, my attention drawn to a large metal footlocker sitting by itself on the workbench. It wasn't dusty like the others. It had a single, smaller envelope taped to the lid, with the word "Read" written in the same spidery script. My fingers were clumsy as I opened it. Inside was another letter, this one much longer. I held the flashlight while Maya held the lamp, and I began to read aloud, my voice trembling in the vast, silent dark. "My children, if you have found this place, then you have chosen the harder path. I am proud of you. Now you deserve the truth. I was not a hermit. I was not a paranoid recluse. I was a civil engineer for the state for 40 years. I built bridges, roads, dams. I knew how to move earth and shape stone. And I used that knowledge to build this. When your grandmother and I moved to this land, we wanted a quiet life. But the world is not always quiet. In the nearby city, we became involved with a small underground group that helped people. People who needed to disappear. Not criminals. Women and children escaping abusive homes. Political refugees who were denied asylum and were facing deportation to dangerous places. Whistleblowers who were being threatened by powerful corporations. People the system had failed or was actively trying to crush. We gave them shelter. We gave them a place to hide, to rest, to heal, before we helped them move on to a new, safe life. At first, we hid them in the barn, in the attic. But it was too risky. The world was getting more complicated, more surveilled. So I started digging. This tunnel, this place, it was my life's work. I called it the Haven. It was a modern-day underground railroad. The money I had, I spent on this. On supplies, on false documents, on food, on transportation for our guests. The crates you see are filled with non-perishable food, medical supplies, clothing, blankets. There is a generator in the next room, and a well pump that draws fresh water. Everything needed to sustain life, hidden from the world. Your father knew what I was doing. He thought I was a fool. He said I was reckless, that I was putting the family in danger. He wanted a normal life, a safe life. He couldn't live with the risk, with the secrets. That is why we grew apart. He saw my work as a betrayal of our family. I saw it as my duty to a larger family. Perhaps we were both right. Perhaps we were both wrong. I had to stop reading. My throat was tight with emotion. I looked at Maya. Her face, illuminated by the flickering lamplight, was pale. The cynical armor she wore had cracked. He was helping people, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I nodded, unable to speak. I thought of Earl, the old man from the store, saying, helped a lot of people out in his time, quietly. It hadn't been a figure of speech. I took a breath and continued reading. In the large footlocker, you will not find gold or jewels. You will find something far more valuable. You will find their stories. I kept journals. I changed the names to protect them, but I wrote down who they were, where they came from, and where they were going. I did it so they would not be forgotten, so that the truth of their struggle would exist somewhere in the world. There are also photographs and letters they wrote to me, to a world they had to leave behind. There is one more thing in that locker. In a false bottom, you will find a cash box. It is not a fortune, but it is enough. Enough to pay the taxes for a decade. Enough to fix the roof on the house. Enough to live on, simply, for a few years. Enough for a real start. It is the last of the network's funds left in my care. The choice, now, is yours. Sterling Development wants this land. They want to bulldoze the forest and build their glass boxes. They would pave over this history, this sanctuary, without ever knowing it was here. If you sell to them, you will be rich. You will have the easy life your father wanted for you. No one would blame you. After the life you've had, you've earned it. Or you can stay. You can be the keepers of this place. The Haven has been dormant since I grew too old and my network disbanded. But the world has not gotten any safer. The need is still there. Perhaps it is greater than ever. To keep this place is to accept a great burden, but also a great purpose. It is to honor not just my legacy, but the legacy of every soul who passed through here, seeking safety. This is your true inheritance, Leo and Maya. Not the land, not the money, the choice. Whatever you decide, know that I loved you. When I finished, the silence in the tunnel was different. It wasn't empty. It was full of ghosts, full of stories, full of the weight of my grandfather's life. With trembling hands, we opened the main footlocker. It was filled with dozens of worn, leather-bound journals. We opened one. Inside, in that same spidery script, were entries. A mother and her 2 sons arrived tonight from El Salvador. The boys are terrified, but they have their mother's eyes, full of fire. Another entry. A young man came today. He has documents that prove a chemical company is poisoning a river. They are hunting him. He will stay until we can get him to a journalist in Canada. It went on and on, page after page of quiet heroism. We found the false bottom. Inside was a metal cash box. We opened it. It was filled with neat stacks of $100 bills. Maya didn't even bother to count it. She just stared at it, her expression unreadable. We sat there for a long time, in the cold, silent dark, the history of this place settling over us like a heavy blanket. The $2 million from Sterling Development felt like a poisoned apple, a temptation from a world that had nothing to do with this. That world was about erasing things. This place was about saving them. "What do we do?" I finally asked, my voice echoing in the chamber. Maya was quiet for a long time. She picked up one of the journals, her fingers tracing the worn leather cover. "All my life," she said, her voice thick, "all I've wanted is to be safe, to have enough money that no one can ever hurt us or control us again. That offer, it's everything I ever dreamed of." She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw not a cynic, but a terrified kid who had spent her life fighting. "But it's not just dirt and trees, is it?" she continued, her voice breaking. "It's this, all of this." She gestured around the room, at the crates, the cots, the stories locked in the journals. He wasn't a hermit who abandoned us. He was a hero. And he didn't abandon us. He trusted us. He left this for us to find. She stood up and walked over to the workbench, picking up a faded photograph that was pinned to the wall. It was of a smiling man and woman, young, standing in front of the farmhouse when it was new and freshly painted. Our grandparents. They looked happy. They looked strong. "We can't sell it, Leo," she said, her back to me. "We can't. It wouldn't be right." A wave of relief so powerful it made me dizzy washed over me. I hadn't realized how scared I was that she would choose the money, that I would have to choose between my sister and this legacy. But I didn't. She had chosen. We had chosen. "No," I said, my voice clear and steady for the first time in my life. "We can't." That night, we slept in the cots in the bunker, the journals piled between us. We felt closer to our family, to our own history, than we ever had in our lives. We weren't orphans anymore. We were the keepers of the haven. Listen, if you've made it this far into the story, something in it must be speaking to you. Maybe it's the feeling of being an outsider, or the weight of a family secret, or the struggle to find your own purpose. Whatever it is, I want you to know you're not alone. The comments on these stories are filled with people sharing their own journeys. It's a powerful thing. If you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear what this story is bringing up for you. And maybe hit that like button if you're finding value in this. It helps more than you know. Now, let's get back to what happened next. The next morning, we walked out of the tunnel and back into the sunlight. The world looked different. The dilapidated farmhouse didn't look like a ruin anymore. It looked like a challenge. The overgrown forest didn't look like a liability. It looked like a shield. We found the number for Sterling Development on the letterhead and made the call. Maya did the talking. Her voice was firm, professional, the hard edge back, but this time it wasn't brittle. It was forged steel. "This is Maya Vance," she said into her cheap cell phone, the reception crackling. "I'm calling regarding your offer for the property at Old Creek Road. We're rejecting it. And to save you some time, we will be rejecting all future offers. The property is not for sale. Please remove us from your contact list." She didn't wait for a reply. She just hung up. She looked at me and a slow, genuine smile spread across her face. It was the first time I'd seen her smile like that in years. "Well," she said, "I guess we'd better learn how to fix a roof." We used the money from the cash box. We were careful, frugal. We took Earl up on his offer of help. When we drove his truck into town to buy supplies, he didn't ask any questions. He just seemed to understand. He introduced us to a retired carpenter named Sal and a woman named Maria who ran a small farm stand and knew everything about gardening. Slowly, a community began to form around us. They were quiet people, respectful of privacy, but they were there. They taught us how to patch the roof, how to reglaze the windows, how to chop wood and clear a field for a vegetable garden. They shared stories about our grandfather, small anecdotes that filled in the picture of the man we'd never known. They spoke of his kindness, his quiet generosity, his fierce love for his land. We worked harder than we ever had in our lives. Our hands, once soft from institutional living, became calloused and strong. We moved into the house, cleaning away the years of dust, airing out the ghosts. We made it our own, but we were careful to preserve its character, our grandfather's character. We left his books on the shelves and his tools on the workbench in the barn. We spent our evenings in the tunnel, not hiding, but learning. We read the journals, we organized the supplies, we studied the schematics our grandfather had drawn. We learned the intricate systems he had built, the ventilation shafts disguised as hollow logs, the emergency exits, the clever ways he had masked the haven's existence from the outside world. It was an education. We learned about courage and sacrifice and the quiet, unseen wars people fight every day just to survive. We were humbled by the stories. We felt an immense, crushing weight of responsibility. But for the first time, it felt like a worthy weight. It was the weight of purpose. About 6 months after we arrived, a sleek, black SUV made its way up our now cleared driveway. A man in an expensive suit got out. He was from Sterling Development. He hadn't taken Maya's no for a final answer. He walked onto our newly repaired porch, a slick smile on his face. Maya and I met him at the door. We didn't invite him in. "Maya, Leo," he said, as if we were old friends. "I'm David Chen, Senior Acquisitions for Sterling. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Our initial offer was just a starting point. We're prepared to go as high as $3 million. Think about it. That's life-changing money." Maya crossed her arms. "We have a life," she said, her voice even. "We don't need a different one." The man's smile faltered. He looked around, at the patched roof, the new window panes, the neat stacks of firewood. He saw a project, a money pit. He couldn't see what was really there. "Be realistic," he said, his tone turning condescending. "You're 2 kids playing house. This place is a ruin. In a few years, you'll be broke and desperate. My offer is your only way out." "I think you should leave," I said. My voice didn't shake. I looked him straight in the eye. For the first time, I felt taller than my own self-doubt. He scoffed, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're making a huge mistake." "No," Maya said, stepping forward. "Our grandfather made a choice when he bought this land. Our parents made a choice when they left it. And we're making our choice now. We're staying. This is our home." There was a finality in her voice that even he couldn't argue with. He stared at us for a moment, his mind unable to compute a world where 2 destitute orphans would turn down $3 million for a patch of dirt. He finally gave up, got back in his SUV, and drove away. We never heard from Sterling Development again. Watching him leave, I realized we had done more than just save a piece of land. We had broken a cycle. For our entire lives, we had been subject to the choices of others. Social workers, judges, lawyers. Our lives were things to be managed, problems to be solved. By saying no, by choosing the harder path, We had taken control of our own story. We haven't had to use the haven yet, not for its original purpose. The world keeps turning, and the need is still out there, a low hum beneath the surface of things. We know that one day we might get a knock on the door in the middle of the night, a call from a number we don't recognize, with a coded message passed down from the remnants of our grandfather's network. We don't know if we're ready, but we are preparing. We are learning. We are waiting. What we have now is more than money could ever buy. We have a home, not just a house, but a place on this earth that means something. We have a purpose, a legacy to protect. And most importantly, I have my sister. We're not just a matched set anymore. We're a team. Looking back, I see that our grandfather's gift wasn't the land, or the house, or even the tunnel. His gift was a story. He gave us a history that was bigger than our own pain, a story of hope and resilience. He showed us that family isn't just about blood. It's about the choices we make, the burdens we are willing to carry for each other, and the quiet, secret places we build to keep each other safe. He gave us a reason to believe that even after the worst happens, you can still build something that matters. You can still find your way home. This journey taught me that inheritance isn't about what you're given, it's about what you choose to do with it. We were given 500 acres of forgotten land, but we chose to inherit a 500-acre responsibility. We were offered a fortune that could have let us escape our past, but we chose a legacy that forced us to confront it, to understand it, and to build a future from it. And I have to ask you, what have you inherited? I'm not talking about money or property. I'm talking about the stories, the values, the quiet strengths passed down to you. Maybe it's a story you're running from, or one you've never fully understood. I encourage you to look closer. The most valuable legacies are often hidden, buried under years of pain or misunderstanding. Finding them can change everything. Thank you for being here and for listening. Sharing this is part of my own process of understanding it all. If this story meant something to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're all just trying to make sense of the stories we've been handed. Drop a comment below and tell me about a choice that defined you. I read every single one. You are not alone in this. We'll see you in the next one.